Hello, my name is Mary Clay. If that's too complicated for you, just call me MC. Today we are talking about Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 5, Halls of Stone. Joining me is Max, but you might better know him as Airplane Facts with Max. Welcome!
Hello, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. You've been a great personality in just general nerdery communities, you know?
Yeah, people love airplanes.
Yep. And never thought I'd have someone who's so knowledgeable about airplanes on this show.
Yep,
So
here we
I think
are.
it's about time. Yeah, here we are. For those not familiar, do you want to, introduce yourself for a little bit and share what it is that you do and, how you are connected with Lord of the Rings and Tolkien in general?
I am Max. I run a Instagram and TikTok page called Airplane Facts with Max, and I talk about airplanes and all of the ways that they're very different from the Lord of the Rings. Because a lot of people think that airplanes and Lord of the Rings are like the same, but they're actually a lot more different than people would think. And so I compare and contrast the differences and similarities between commercial aviation and the works of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Very different stuff. How did you first get into Lord? Was it the movies? Did you read the books at all? Or did you come to it later in life?
No, it was the movies. My dad took me to see Fellowship when it came out back in, what was that, 2001? And I just fell in love from there. And then as I got older, I read the books and then I kept diving deeper, basically, and just eventually wind up reading the Silmarillion for the second time. And you're like, okay,
oh gosh,
it's all starting to make sense now, you know?
that second read through is when it all really comes together.
I don't know if you absorb it all the first time, but
I can tell you I did not, and I have no plans to read it a second time. So
fair. But the story of Turin is so great.
Oh man, I remember that one. I remember that one.
But yeah, that's how I got into it.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, speaking of delving deeply, was that a great transition?
And greedily, maybe.
And greedily, yeah. So yeah, this is episode 5. We're more than halfway through the season now. Before we get into, the specifics of this episode, how are you feeling about Rings of Power in general and this season? Positive, negative, what are you thinking?
I've never seen it. I'm just kidding.
You just wandered into the Zoom meeting.
No, I'm just kidding. No, so far in general, I like it a lot. I think I watched the first season. I want to say like all the way through probably 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like half the time it's on my second monitor while I'm playing World of Warcraft after my kids go to bed. So, I'm half watching it. But and then I think season 2 has really built on that momentum and it's I think improved in a lot of ways. So I'm a lot happier with season 2 overall than I was with season 1 for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think particularly this episode.
Yeah, I was kind of worried when you were like how about episode 5? I was like, okay, episode 5 might be kind of a boring filler episode. We'll see. And then it turned out to be one of my favorites.
Yeah,
of the whole season.
I think it's my favorite of the whole series so far.
It might be. It made me feel the most.
Yeah,
which I'm sure we'll get into
later.
But
so many feelings. Yeah, it just generally for me, I really feel like it made up for a lot of lost ground that I thought we were kind of struggling with in the earlier half of the season, where it felt like, okay, let's get the Numenor train going. Let's start going somewhere. And this episode, across all of the plot lines that it covered, the stakes were upped everywhere, and it really feels like we're heading in a much more dynamic direction than we were previously.
I would agree with that, definitely. And the Numenor thing, Numenor is one of my favorites, and I think to properly do the Numenor story, it's gonna have kind of a slow build, because it's like I don't want to get too deep into the book lore, but
Yeah.
I just
Well,
I'm excited.
yeah, it's like thousands, literal
Yeah.
thousands of years of history and a slow, Rome wasn't built in a day. Numenor didn't fall in a night. So,
Right, right. And we're finally seeing some like actual like yeah. I'm really excited about like where Numenor is going. I'm fully invested in the Numenor story.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the description for this episode, when Durin grows suspicious of the Dwarven rings, Celebrimbor must reassess his priorities. Amidst Numenor's shifting currents, Elendil searches for hope. Oh my god, that's so stab in the heart. It has a 7.5 on IMDb and 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So pretty, especially the 7.5 on IMDb is pretty favorable. Especially for this show that usually just gets like tons of 1-star reviews, regardless. And it's definitely not. I can see it being a 5 or 6-star show, but it's definitely not a 1-star show. So those are people who just
No, not
don't
at all.
care about it. Yeah.
It gets a wild amount of hate that it does not deserve at all.
Yeah.
I like the show. I mean, I like the show a lot. I've watched it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. That would be kind of depressing if you'd seen it.
I'm just
this
coming on
many
here to
times.
hate.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
well, what's one of the creators? It was either Patrick, what are their names? Patrick McKay and JD Payne. One of them in an interview said something like, "Well, yeah, keep watching, keep enjoying. We're glad you guys are watching. And hey, for all the people who hate watch it and make YouTube videos about it, thanks for the views." So
right. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember when it first came out, when the show first came out, I was like, yeah, this is sweet. And then I enjoyed it. And I remember, and then I watched it a second time. And my second rewatch, I liked it quite a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know. I mean, I find myself putting it on quite a bit. So I think more people should watch it. But that's neither here nor there. That's up to them. That's their prerogative. I can't tell people what to like or what not to like.
Yeah, I think with the first season, I was really like gung-ho and trying to convince people to watch it and give it a chance. And now I'm kind of like, there's so much media out there. There's so much content. Watch what you want to watch. And
yeah,
I'm not gonna, force you to watch something that you don't really care about.
Right. And even at work where I work, a lot of the dudes I work with watch it and they like it and they always ask me questions every week about like what I think and stuff, which is kind of fun while the season's going on because they're like, "Who's Tom Bombadil?" And I'm like, "How much time do you have?"
Like, I can give you a TED talk.
Actually, that's a bad one because if somebody asks me who Tom Bombadil is, I just say Tom Bombadil. But
yeah,
I'm actually wearing a Tom Bombadil t-shirt right now.
Oh, that's great.
But I love talking about the show and seeing like where, like with some of my friends that run Tolkien accounts and stuff, and like we're always talking and theorizing about what we're seeing and breaking it down and stuff with amongst each other. And we're always like, well, this would make a good podcast, and then we never do it.
Well, we're doing it today. We're doing it now.
We're doing it today.
So let's do it. Yeah. As King Durin uses his ring to grow more connected with the mountain and dig further to create light shafts and mine resources, Prince Durin grows worried over the ring's effect on his father. Even more so when Disa discovers a disturbing presence in the depths of the mountain. King Durin calls together the 7 dwarven lords, but requests that they provide half the share of their mines to receive a ring. The prince brings this concern to Oregion and casts his doubts on Anatar. After failing to convince his father not to use the ring anymore, Disa makes Durin promise that he will never wear it. Right off the bat, this episode opens with like a shot of the dwarven ring, and we zoom in on the 7, and there's like that, ring whispering, and just such an ominous start. And I half expect to hear the Howard Shore like do 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 do.
Right.
But they are just doing such a I hate what they're doing of setting up what we know is going to come, the downfall of Khazad-dûm and the line of Durin. But they're doing such a good job with it.
Right, because the dwarves are one of my favorite parts of the series so far. I love the dwarves. And I was interested to see when they started crafting the rings for the dwarves and stuff. I was like, how's he going to use this to help his kingdom? Like, and then being able to like see where to dig and stuff makes sense. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's something that I think generally the question of what is it that the rings actually do is something that's always kind of been a little vague in the
Yeah.
lore. And like you read it in I can't remember. I guess it's the appendices. It's either the appendices or the last part of the Silmarillion, but talking about like the forging of the rings and
Hmm.
particularly the dwarven rings, it says that they were not swayed, they were not affected by Sauron because they are naturally hardy, stubborn
Right.
people. And so they were unaffected by him, but the rings brought out this level of greed in the dwarves that kind of led to their downfall. And so that's very like, overarching, and what does that actually look like? And so we're seeing that of King Durin like frantically mining and being like, this is a foundation wall.
Yeah.
Like he's in one of those like HGTV shows where the couple's like, I don't care, I want an open concept kitchen.
We want an open concept Khazad Dûm.
Yes.
Open Khazad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and with what you're saying, you see the inverse too with Prince Durin, of that where he's stubborn and not really falling prey to it. Although he's not wearing the ring, but
Yeah. Easier
he's
said than
suspicious of
done.
it.
We don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's like, I don't know about this thing, man.
And I think that's why it's so important at the not to jump like all the way to the end, but when Dee says like, please never wear that ring, because I think she knows that even though Prince Durin is very aware of what's going on, and that he would never knowingly lead anyone in the wrong direction or do something to cause harm. I think Disa is so aware that
Yeah,
the ring has such an incredible hold on the king, and I also love her take in an earlier scene too, where she says it's such a great draw to the lore that Aule created the dwarves, and
yes,
saying that the resonance that they have with the mountains and the resonance singing that she and other characters do is a gift from Aule, and the ring is like bypassing that gift and that
yeah,
blessing, and she kind of views that as almost a betrayal of who they are and how they came to be. And I think it's so important that Prince Durin's partner in this show is so vividly, I mean, and Prince Durin is too, but I think we're gonna get into Waters eventually where he will use the ring.
Oh no, he for sure will.
Yeah.
Especially, my prediction for at some point later in the series, who knows when, is that he'll definitely get the ring and wear the ring. And, not just being corrupted by the ring, but oaths and like swearing in Tolkien's works are very, very, very important and
Mm-hmm.
binding in like their own way.
Right.
And so I think him maybe using it will be a catalyst for what we know to be the eventual fall of Khazad-dûm. Maybe. I don't know.
I just get such
Maybe.
a terrible pit in my stomach whenever I think about that, because the show is really nailing the dwarves. Like they have done
Yeah.
such an incredible job of writing them, and I think they're one of the I think very quickly Anatar and Celebrimbor and what's happening with the Forge is very quickly becoming another really strong point, but I think the dwarves have
Oh,
been
for
like a
sure.
really steady, strong presence in the show.
Oh, absolutely. And in season one, I love Disa. I love her so much. And Prince and their whole dynamic is just wonderful. And I think they were definitely, and like their relationship with Elrond were for sure some of the high points
Yeah.
of season one. And yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how they play out Khazad-dûm throughout the rest of the series
Hmm.
for sure. Because I think they might just have a little tit for tat with the Balrog, and they might make it through. Because I think Khazad-dûm technically falls in the third age, so like we'll see. Maybe we won't see them
Maybe, yeah,
all.
yeah,
I
maybe
got
it'll all
hope.
be fine.
Yeah, maybe it'll all be fine
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah, they'll put him back to sleep or something.
Yeah. Just give
I don't
him
know if that's
some
they give him
NyQuil or something.
melatonin. They
Yeah.
put they put melatonin in the mithril, and he goes back to
To
bed.
sleep, and they
Yeah,
have, it's just a ticking time bomb at that point. And Prince Durin's
right.
like, well, maybe I won't be around to see it. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
We get another, like, a lot of other great moments of Disa and Durin's relationship in this episode. They go shopping in the market for a birthday present for their daughter. The children who are just always off screen.
Always off screen. Yeah. And if they're on screen, they got a giant mask on their head.
Yeah, in season 1 we at least would hear them like giggling or singing off screen. We don't hear them at all in this
I just remember there's that one point where they're wearing these like giant dwarf heads, and they like bonk together, and I was like, yeah.
I love them. I would love to I just would love to see like dwarven children, I just think that's a very fun missed opportunity, but I get that, like, child actors, it's hard.
Right. Yeah.
But I love that, like, they're shopping. It's a really great dynamic that I'm sure a lot of couples are familiar with, where Durin is like, Disa's shopping and he's holding her purse and
yeah.
But we see that the king has what's the word? I don't know. He's made this new law, this new tax essentially, where half of what is earned goes to, I forget what he calls it, but like the ring tax, basically.
Yeah, it's steep.
And steep. And so all these prices are going up, and this is, it's just like really building up to alert Prince Durin that his father has changed. Right. And really alarming him that, like, oh gosh, like, these prices are rising, that even though the goal of the ring and using the ring to bring life back to Khazad-dûm is kind of like fallen by the wayside now, because if he really wanted the best for his people, he wouldn't make this new rule about the ring tax or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. There's just so many other things he could do to look out for his people that he is veering off course from. Yeah,
no, for sure. The rings they have to show how the rings change the ring bearer, the person wearing it, and so we'll see how it continues to unfold. I think, I don't know. I'm most curious though about like the rings for men and who ends up getting them.
Yeah.
That's like been on my mind heavy. And I've been wondering that for a long time, because I'm like, well, if he's gonna divvy out the rings to men eventually, since season 1.
By the end of our discussion, I definitely have an idea of at least one of those ring bearers for men, I think.
Yeah. All right. I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just so appreciate Disa's presence, because there's a moment when King Durin is giving a speech about, like, we're back and better than ever, baby, and she and this other resonant singer kind of like look at each other, and just that kind of, audience surrogate almost, that something's not right here, and then her kind of pushing Prince Durin to recognize that too, and he goes to Eregion and speaks to Celebrimbor about it, and he's like, nope, there's nothing wrong with the rings, we did it exactly how we did with the elves, so it must be you. And then this is when he calls him out and is like, how much do you actually know about this Anatar guy?
Right. And he plants that seed of doubt.
Yeah. And just Durin, he knows, man. Like,
yeah. I don't trust this guy.
Yeah. And
I loved in, was it episode 3 that Durin's like, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. That might have been episode 2. I don't remember.
Yeah,
which
2 or 3, because he compliments him and is like, "Yeah, Elrond says you're the best dwarf around," and Durin's like, "That's not right."
You would never say that about me,
man. I mean, I understand. Like, it makes total sense why we're not seeing them together, but I really miss seeing Elrond and Durin and Disa
Elrond
too.
Durin thing. Yeah, it's great.
All hanging out together.
Wonderful dynamic. We will again, I'm sure.
I think the writers and the showrunners know that they struck gold with that relationship, and the actors are so great in it as well. I hope we see more of it before it potentially comes to tragic ends. And then like this last scene of Prince Durin going back to the king and begging him to take it off, and just like the devastation that the king is saying, I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you, son, for pushing me to do this. And it's in the worst possible circumstances.
Right. And then he gives him his like prince collar back or whatever.
He's like, you've earned you've earned your place again.
Yeah. He's all iced out again. And it's like, man.
Yeah. And Prince Durin is just like, I wanted this, but not like this, not under these circumstances. And also just like, just once again, those actors, let me look up the King Durin actor, because he's also incredible and he really steals every scene. Peter Mullen.
Peter Mullen.
I think so. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they're incredible. And it's just such an emotional... this is something that people say this is why the dwarves are so strong in the show, is that there's so many different relationships and relationship dynamics that they write so well. And this father-son dynamic between them, and also kind of having that, power structure between them as well, being king and prince, just really makes it so strong.
Yeah.
And anything else about this grouping of the plot or story before we move onward?
The one thing that I saw in this episode that I found disappointing, and in regards to the dwarves, that like, and it's really not a major thing, but I remember when the show first started like getting announced and aired, I was like, are we going to see Celebrimbor and Narvi make the Doors of Durin? And I wish that it would have been like more involved.
Of a process.
That's like my only thing, is that he's like, hey, check out these doors, by the way. But that's also, the consequence of having 5 seasons with
there's
a lot to fit
over
in.
thousands of years. Yeah.
8 episode seasons. So I'm like, well, I guess we don't want to spend an entire episode on the fourth.
That's what's so incredible about the lore, is that you could make so many of these stories their own show.
Oh, it's their own thing.
And I think that's why I think it's so crazy, but also so cool that we're getting the War of the Rohirrim movie, because it's it's kind of, I guess for the average fan, it's kind of random. It's like, what is this Rohan story? What? But it's
very niche.
It's such a small piece of the lore that they're able to flesh out into a full length movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted, we haven't seen it yet, so it might be terrible. Maybe they didn't need to flesh it out into a movie, but
I bet it'll be cool.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll see.
But yeah, I think that's what's so cool about this world and what Tolkien has written, is that anything could be their entire show. Like you were talking about how Numenor, they don't have the space here to really get into the finer details of everything, and it's kind of a slow build. That could be its whole show.
Yeah, you could have a whole show just on Numenor. I mean, and he had this way of writing that you could take 2 paragraphs and turn it into a 3-episode or 3-season miniseries, between like 3 paragraphs. Like, there's just so much packed into these words in this world building. But that was my one thing. I was like, man, I wish the Doors of Durin, like, I wanted to see Celebrimbor like go there with Narvi and like hang
them up,
have friends and like put them up.
Has anyone out there tried to hang a door? It's actually very frustrating and annoying.
Oh, it's horrible.
The hinges, and I don't know if the Doors of Moria have hinges or whatever, but
they got something.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode of just them
the construction
hanging the
of
doors.
The Doors of Durin. Yeah, I don't know, but I want I could watch Celebrimbor and Narvi hanging out for 3 episodes, making doors, and be like, talk about HGTV, like Narvi's like, I want like an open concept Westgate, for all my friends,
Yeah. Let's get into it more. Celebrimbor celebrates the forging of the dwarven rings, while Annatar is ready to move on to his next project, Rings for Men. However, when Celebrimbor refuses to involve himself, Annatar forges, pun intended, onward. Creating the rings begins to go wrong, sending Myrdania into a dark, invisible realm. Meanwhile, in Lindon, Gil-galad receives Celebrimbor's letter lying about closing the forge and insists that all is well in Eregion. However, he remains unsure about where to focus their efforts on attacking Sauron and Adar. After Prince Durin questions the dwarven rings and Annatar, Celebrimbor questions the making of the rings, and Annatar makes him believe that lying to the king sowed deceit into the rings. Believing the only way out is through now, Celebrimbor commits to making the 9 rings for men with Annatar. Later, Elrond arrives in Lindon with words that the orcs are planning to attack Eregion, but Gil-galad says they don't have enough resources to defeat both Sauron and Adar. And speaking of Adar, Galadriel arrives in Mordor, and Adar proposes an alliance based on their mutual hatred of Sauron. So yeah, like you said, in the very beginning, we see the dwarves and elves celebrating and toasting to their friendship and having fun banter. And
real fun.
I think life is just so much better when the dwarves and elves are friends.
Yeah. I mean, speak friend and enter. That's what they said.
Yeah.
It's on the doors.
And I think it's a very fun choice to include the door in this, but like it's a very, brief moment. I know we could have had a full episode on it.
I could have.
But
personally.
I think it's great that they included it because they didn't have to.
Yes,
but
right.
It's a nice moment for some more like average fans who've maybe only seen the movies, and they're like, "Hey, I know that thing.
I've seen those doors before."
Yeah, so that's always great when they're able to like tie in those pieces that are kind of like for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And this. So someone, I have to say, I don't remember who it was. It was just something I saw like scrolling on Threads, and they were so correct to bring this up that Rings of Power is essentially a Shakespearean tragedy. And
yeah, it's going to end horribly.
Yeah, there's 2 characters that are going to make it out of this, I think. I think it's just Galadriel and Elrond. I can't remember what happens to Gil-galad, but I don't think anything positive.
No, nothing good. Worst handshake ever. Yeah, no, definitely not my boy. I love Gil-galad. Yeah, it would be Galadriel and
Elrond, yeah.
Elrond.
And then
Isildur might, depending on where they end the show.
Yeah. But I mean, even then, Isildur's
we know what happens.
His fate, he's not gonna end in a good place even so. Anyway, but yeah, just framing this as like a Shakespearean tragedy, I think makes it so much more. It just adds such an interesting lens to view it with, because I started viewing Annatar and Celebrimbor as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth.
Right.
With Annatar pulling the strings and Celebrimbor kind of very hesitantly giving into this and then doing being so manipulated by him. We will never be able to get into all of the details of the manipulation that Annatar pulls, but shout out to Wizard Way Chris. I don't know if it's on Twitter because I'm not over there anymore, but on Threads at least, they were doing like a whole long list of all the different ways that Annatar is just a master manipulator. And a lot of these are based in very real behaviors of abusers and the cycle of an abusive relationship. And we see that, I think, like this first scene where Celebrimbor comes out and Annatar's like, I told you to keep it short. And Celebrimbor is kind of like trying to, be like, no, everything's fine, and trying to get back on his good side, and says, if anything, I should have talked longer because then I could mention you. Right. And just it's, oh my God, it's so incredible to watch. And Charlie Vicker, none of these are complete sentences that I'm saying, but like
yeah, Charlie Vickers is great. I love his portrayal of Annatar, and Sauron. But my hot take is I don't like Sauron. He sucks. I'm not a Sauron fan.
It's okay.
Because he's evil.
I know.
And people are like, but he's really pretty. And I'm like, I don't care how pretty he is. He's pretty. Evil. And they're like,
And that's what such a good performance Charlie Vickers is doing, is that,
Yeah.
yes, he is undeniably the bad guy here. Absolutely. And yet so many people are drawn into him and are like,
Right.
hey, but maybe we should hear him out. Maybe he has some good ideas.
Like I'm like I feel crazy because I'm over here like talking to some of my friends. I'm like, stop it. What are you talking about? That's literally Sauron. And they're like, yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm like, oh
but
no. He's the Dark Lord.
Yep.
He turns he turned into goop. No.
Um, it's a lot easier for me to not like Sauron as much this season because I found him way more attractive in his Halbrand form. I'm not
fair.
into there's a joke that you are either attracted to Legolas or Aragorn from the original movies, and I just never related to finding Legolas attractive.
All right,
I'm like, he's
fair.
just pretty Orlando Bloom.
Right.
But yeah, he is pretty.
He is pretty.
great
I'm not
hair.
gonna say he's not. Yeah, gray hair. But yeah, he does a really good job, and I do love like as the season has progressed, seeing him become more and more manipulative and like
Yeah. He's taking those bigger risks.
yeah, yeah. And, it starts so I feel like if you watch episode 1 or 2, wherever Anatar first shows up, I can't remember because I watched them all in a row like 2 times. So, but when he first comes out, he seems like he does like give this air of wholesomeness about him. And by this point, you're seeing this turn where you're like, no, he love bombed him, and now he's doing the opposite of that.
This is quite literally the cycle of abusive relationships. And it starts with so much love and adoration and love bombing, which is when you try and almost overcompensate for negativity and toxicity by attempting to reassure the other person that no, I really love you, and anything I do is because I love you. And so when these manipulations happen, you question yourself and you're like, well, wait, no, he said he likes me and we're in this together and all this stuff. And this isn't even talking about this isn't even incorporating the like shipping aspect of these two characters, which is very much a ship, but this is
not
just
shipping anybody.
But this is just like a definitive fact that they are in a abusive relationship together with Anatar, as this lead manipulator.
For sure.
And Celebrimbor starts calling him out on it and says, this is what you do. You plant the seed of an idea in someone until it bears fruit and they think it's their own idea. And yeah, dude, yes.
Maybe you need to back off, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's not gonna though. Because, maybe some of that fire of Feanor is still burning in Celebrimbor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Old Kelly B.
And this is when, Anatar starts mentioning the 9 rings, saying from Numenor to Rune. And so this is where I think we're really opening up the conversation that some potential characters from the Numenor plotline are going to get a mortal ring, because we don't know from the lore who those 9 individuals are.
No, there's one, and I think it's an unfinished tale, so it's not even in the appendices, so they don't have rights to it. But I know they mentioned Kamul's the only one that we know the name of, who was an Easterling.
Okay.
That became a ringwraith, and then I want to say like 3 or 4, 3 or 4, maybe 5. I don't know. Somebody smarter than me would know. Went to Numenorians, and the other ones were spread out. So, but that's also like not in the appendices. It's in unfinished tales, and sometimes people will talk to me about like that's canon, and I'm like, well, the first word is unfinished, and it was published by not Tolkien, so is it canon? That's a whole nother conversation.
So true. Yeah.
But yeah, I think some of them will go to the Numenorians, and I don't know which Numenorians will get them. I know one that won't, and that's about the extent of my knowledge. I know 3 that won't get them, and that's the extent of my knowledge. I think.
Yeah, I don't know what the show is going to do with it. You know,
they could do it. They could do whatever they can do.
Yeah,
Who
totally.
knows? It could. That's kind of what's fun about it. Is you're like, I don't know. What are you guys gonna do?
And so the way that Anatar walks off, like, fine, I'll do it without you, is
Yeah.
really tapping into that insecurity within Celebrimbor, kind of like what you talked about of, like, you know, Feanor burning hot and heavy, that bloodline still running through him, and Anatar knowing that Celebrimbor will potentially resent him for doing this on his own and will eventually want to involve, and Celebrimbor will want to involve himself because he can't resist this idea of creating something so glorious.
Well, and I think Celebrimbor's intentions are very pure. But you even see it later in the episode because, like, when Merdania puts on the ring and she turns invisible in the forge, and like she's throwing all the tools around and stuff or whatever, and she beholds Sauron's like fiery form, and
she said, "What I wrote it down. What does she say?
Like to burning eyes of hate eternal," or so. It was pretty metal. It was pretty cool.
She says, "Oh, she says like." I saw that, and it's been here among us all along, and yeah, that power is there. It is here. Trust your gut. Run. Especially later on when oh my god, when Anatar's like, and again, this is why I'm so impressed with the manipulation tactics that he is able to do, because he starts kind of explaining away this unseen world that she sees and being like, oh, that's how the world really is. You've seen something that not everyone can, and except for it was corrupted, because Celebrimbor is actually a weakened person because of his work. And
then she's like, and don't mention any of this to him, by the way. Keep this is between us.
And like starting to create that divide between Celebrimbor and his team of apprentices or whatever.
He's flattering her too, being like, your hair reminds me of Lady Galadriel's. And it's like, some people will be like, oh, he loves Galadriel. I'm like, no, he's trying to compliment her because everyone knows who Galadriel is.
Oh, he definitely, right? Yes,
he's not, that's not a slip. He did that on purpose, like to get into her mind, at least in my
And I've seen some people theorize that she is actually Celebrian, which is Galadriel's daughter. And I'm like,
I've seen that, but probably not.
No,
I saw that
like,
kind of before.
So y'all think that Galadriel had a daughter and then just like left her in a Region?
Yeah, no, and she mentioned Celeborn in the first season. Like, I think that would have been brought up at some point.
Yeah, being like, yeah, and also I had a daughter, and so.
I think we'll see a time jump at some point between like Galadriel and Celeborn. I think we'll see a time point. I would be surprised if we did not see a time jump at some point in the series, like where they're going to have to fast forward a few hundred years, I would think.
Yeah, I think so too.
If I had to guess, it would be, this is, if you want my theory on how I think it'll happen, I would think the time jump is going to occur between season 3 and 4. Like at the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4, I think there's going to be a few hundred years there or something. So that's my guess.
That's cool.
If I was the one.
I truly have no idea what direction we're heading in the show. Well, I have some ideas.
Eventually Sauron gets the ring cut off his finger.
Eventually we're going to make some more rings, and
and the ring gets cut off at some point. That will happen.
Bad things will happen, but other than that, I don't know. But yeah, just and then by the end, when Celebrimbor is like yelling at the Smiths, and then he walks away, and Anatar is like the good cop for them.
Oh, it's not your fault. And you're like, bro, you suck. I hate him so much. I can't wait to watch his stupid ring get cut off his finger. Sauron sucks.
He's the worst.
He's the worst. So when people, I was hanging out with some people at Comic-Con this year, and they're like shipping Galadriel and Sauron, which I don't care. Whatever, ship whatever you want. Have fun. Enjoy your life. I was just like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, I love it. And I was like, it's Sauron. Like, what's wrong with you?
That's what makes it hot.
I guess so. And I was just like, whatever.
It's because and I am one of those people. I mean,
no, that's
so
cool.
Here's the thing, is that I don't do it in like seriousness.
Right, you're not like they're gonna settle down and have a family.
Have some kids. No. If the orc baby set off everyone, then oh boy, some Sauron Galadriel babies.
Even just like the tension was there already. It set enough people off.
Oh man,
not me. It was fine. It was fun.
But Let's see. Okay, what else is happening in this? Just like such a minor detail, but Celebrimbor has a paperweight that's a tiny anvil, and I just thought
Does
that
he?
was
I didn't
funny.
notice
Yeah.
that. You know what I loved? What I really loved in the episode was like you could kind of see it. This is like a testament to the actors. What's the actor's name that plays Celebrimbor? I'm so bad with actors'
I
names.
know, I don't remember any of them.
Was it Charles Edwards?
That sounds right.
Anyways,
Yes.
there's a point where Sauron Anatar is trying to convince him to make the rings for men, and he brings up. Personally, I loved it where he's talking about Arendil and Tur
Yeah,
and
name
Beren,
dropping
and I'm like,
some lore.
and you can see like this is where I'm saying like Charles Edward did a good job. You can see the light in his face kind of change where he's like, yeah, like those were like pretty inspiring
Those were some pretty
stories.
cool people.
Like I would give a ring to them for sure, you know. And I loved that. I loved that little dynamic where he's like appealing to him. And then also when Anatar Sauron is like talking about Numenor and how it's magnificent and it's what he fears, you know? Like he's like, I fear them. And
And so
he's
how do we
making a
control them? Yeah.
right, he's making an appeal to Celebrimbor as in I fear for them, but in reality he's actually scared of the Numenorians because he knows how powerful the
Hmm.
Numenorians are as a people. So that was a high point for the Celebrimbor Anatar dynamic for me in that episode.
Yeah. For me, I think it's when so Durin comes in and brings up his doubts of the ring and is like, "Who is Anatar?" And Celebrimbor's like, "I don't know. That's a good question."
Yeah.
And when he brings this up to Anatar and is like, "Are we sure that we did everything right? We did the exact same thing that we did with the Elven rings. Are we sure?" And Anatar says, "No." Like says, "I did everything right. You did something wrong." And twists the lie that Celebrimbor has told Gil-galad, that they've
Oh,
closed down the forge,
yeah.
they made the Elven
Yeah.
rings and they stopped. They're not doing anything, all is well. And he twists that and says, "You sowed deceit into the dwarven rings." And Celebrimbor is like horrified that he did
Right.
that, and now blaming himself. And it's so perfect. I really think we need to credit the writers more. I know that there are some weak writing moments, but they are doing a really great job with writing Anatar, because the way that he is able to kind of think on his feet and immediately adapt to the situation and spin it in his benefit.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
and Anatar says, "Well, then the only way you can redeem this is by you must leave and you must go to your king and you must beg for forgiveness." And Celebrimbor says, "No, but then he's going to stop me. He's going to make me stop making the rings."
I really want to make these, man.
He's like he will never let me make anything ever again. And that's again that insecurity within Celebrimbor, that this is all he's ever wanted in his life, is to be a master creator of something.
Right.
And saying, and this is again kind of like where I'm starting, I just personally see some minor references that I'm connecting between, again, Macbeth and here, where they're like, I'm what is it? It's like, I'm steeped so far into blood that there's no turning back. And they're like, the only way we can continue is to keep making these rings. And it ends with, again, Celebrimbor giving that like really harsh speech to the other smiths and saying that the 9 rings will redeem the 7. At that point, I'm like, so you admit that the dwarven rings got a little messed up. Are you gonna tell them that?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Are we gonna give that message to Prince Durin, who came in here and asked, or are you just gonna hands off? Oh, it's out of my hands now. That kind of a thing.
Right.
And seeing Celebrimbor step away, so horrified at what they are doing, and Anatar just plunging onward with no shame,
None shame. He's just like, we're gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna keep making rings.
And then some other glimpses of like very minor plot points that we see during this story as well. Gil-galad debating about what to do, seeing more visions of, I don't even know what they're real, like the ring. There's this one shot where it's like a bunch of fish out, like flopping around on a shore. Yeah.
They're not happy.
Yeah. It's not looking good. And I guess the advisor, his advisor of some kind, questioning, being like, are we really going to lean that heavily on a ring, or are you going to make a decision, basically?
Right.
There's I wouldn't even bring it up, but I've seen this episode 3 times now to prepare for this. And every time I saw it, I was like, that was random. There's a 3-second shot of Elrond running in the woods, and he takes his cape off. With that?
Yeah,
he rips his cloak off.
I wonder if that's because some people like complain about like the time travel in the show, where I'm like, okay, but do we need sweeping shots of them walking everywhere?
Yeah, we do.
I mean, you have 8 episodes per season. You got 5 seasons. Like we're not going to waste it all on walking.
Yeah, so we had to show
they
that
throw
they're
in
running
him.
back.
He's in a hurry, dude.
But I just don't get he just so dramatically whips his cape off.
Yeah.
In the middle of I don't get it, but anyway.
They were like, put it in. He looked good.
And he looks great.
He looks great. So like, it's a cool shot. I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah.
They were like, I like it.
And so he comes running up at the very end and is like, Galadriel was right. And man, I just wish she was around to be like, I told you all. and Elrond shares the news that the orcs are marching towards Eregion, and is like, we have to send an army there. We have to send them aid. And Gil-galad he doesn't know what to do at this point. He's like, we can either attack Adar or we can attack Sauron. I feel like if you think Adar is just chilling in Mordor and there's an active battle about to happen directly on your people, maybe you go to that one first.
Probably.
But whatever.
I love my boy Gil-galad. He's struggling right now, but I think, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if they're going to send a force down to Mordor or not, but what I do hope happens, and we saw it in a trailer, is we see Gil-galad wielding his spear Eye-Glows. I can't tell you how excited I am to see my boy Gil-galad in all his glory with his spear fighting some orcs. But I hope that we see Elrond maybe get help from the dwarves to help break the siege of Eregion that is probably going to happen. That would be really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, and the dwarves, I think, would be motivated to do that because of this
the ring brought the light back
this
in
friendship
and like, we got the doors. They kind of established that in this episode. So maybe the dwarves come in and help break the siege of Eregion.
Yeah, that would be great.
Because Linden it's pretty far from Eregion compared to like Eregion's really close to Khazad-dûm, right?
Yeah, in season 1 they walk back and forth all the time.
Yeah, it is close because like Eregion is Hollin, and in the books they walk through Hollin, the ruins of Hollin, before they attempt the mountain pass of Caradhras, and then have to double back through the west gate of Moria. But so like they're kind of neighbors, whereas like Linden is quite a bit further away than Eregion. Yeah. And
even further away though is Mordor.
Yeah, that's super far.
Yeah,
that's super far.
Let's send our troops to Eregion.
Eregion's kind of on the way.
Yeah, really.
It's like having your DoorDash swing by Walgreens on the way. You're like, pick me up
just
some
real
Pepto
quick and easy. We'll just go to this insane battle. It'll be fine. I'm sure.
And then we'll keep on going, and we'll save money because it's a double dash.
Yeah.
This was not sponsored by DoorDash.
Although it would be great
if they want to.
And then it's like one of the very last scenes is we see Galadriel arriving in Mordor at their camp, and Adar's like, I brought you here not as my prisoner but as an ally. We share a common enemy.
Yeah, that's not going to work out well.
No, it's not. But are they going to be desperate enough though? Pairing it immediately with that scene of Gil-galad saying we don't have the resources to fight both fronts. And
this is
maybe they're desperate enough to take advantage of that. Who knows?
Well, what's Adar gonna do? Be like, yeah, you are they gonna like make a pact? Like you let me just rule Mordor and y'all are good?
I'm
Like if
sure he's
if we
going to
take out
make a
Sauron, or...
plea that it would be better to have him in charge than it would be to have Sauron, that Sauron would be way worse for the world, for Middle Earth than Adar would.
I can't see Galadriel taking that, you know? I feel like she's gonna be like, no, y'all gotta let me go. I don't know.
I'm
really curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I think this is what I want to happen is they're having a little conversation, whatever, and then Arondir bursts in, because that's where we left him last, as he was saying, I'm gonna go after the orcs, I'm gonna go after Adar.
Right.
And confront him.
I love Arondir. I love him.
Yeah. So
one of my favorites.
I think he might end up, and maybe he's like staking out their camp or something and sees Galadriel. Because they did previously interact and
in
met.
season 1, and he tells Theo in season 1, he's like, that's Lady Galadriel, commander of the Northern Armies.
Cool. Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, and also because I'm desperate for some of these plot lines to converge a little bit more.
Yeah, and they will. We know they will.
Yeah.
Eventually. It'll
just take 5 seasons to get there.
5 seasons to get there. But yeah, that's a good point. I'm super invested in the last 3 episodes of the season, though. Like, if I remember back to where I was at season 1, episode 5, I'm much more invested in how the rest of the season plays out, which is a testament to how much of an improvement we have.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Do you think we're going to see the forging of the One Ring this season?
No, I do not. I think if I had to put a timeline on the forging of the One Ring, I would think towards the end of season 3 or maybe the beginning of season 4. But I've been wrong in almost all of my predictions.
Me too.
For the show. So I have no idea.
I didn't think we would see the dwarf. I didn't think we would see the elven, dwarven, and potentially now the mortal men. It's so weird being like the elven rings, the dwarven rings, the man rings.
The man rings. This quick or...
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot more of a process. And
well,
I guess I think we're leading towards the fall of Eregion as our finale for this season.
Oh no, Eregion, my guess would be by season 2 season 3 episode 1, Eregion's
donezo.
It's Holland now. There ain't no more Eregion. That would be my guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And no more Celebrimbor. Okay, that's another question.
I don't want to spoil it for whoever listens to this, but I'll tell you what I think if you want me to.
Do you think Celebrimbor is going to survive season 2?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But maybe.
It would be great to be wrong.
Definitely not the series.
But just remember Shakespearean tragedy here.
Yeah,
that's what we're dealing with.
I think Celebrimbor's fall is going to be real not good.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, we still have to, in the whole series, we still have to see Gondor and Arnor get established. Like, there's a lot that needs to happen.
Do we though? Oh yeah, actually no, we do. Oh man.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to happen. So like,
in my mind, I guess skip ahead if you don't want any spoilers about like what happens in lore or anything. But in my mind, Elendil comes over to Middle Earth, and then it's just like, okay, big battle. Cut off Sauron's hand, rip Elendil.
No, there's a whole thing.
So I forgot. There's like a lot that happens in between the fall of Numenor.
That's why I don't get upset, because I'm like, oh man, I really would have loved to see more intricacies with the crafting of the doors and door. And I'm like, but also we have foundations of entire kingdoms that need to happen.
So true.
And so that's why I'm also like, there's got to be a time jump at some point, because
that'd be a boring season to watch them just like laying the stones for
just building walls.
Minas
and you're like, I mean, yeah, it's a cool looking city. I've seen it before, but Yeah, keep going. I guess episode 3, they're still building. It's like watching a Minecraft live stream, but
Yeah, really.
Lord of the Rings.
Any other thoughts about this plot line with the rings and Anatar and Celebrimbor?
No, other than I'm excited to see like how it continues panning out, and I think Anatar is going to get a lot more, even more abusive or manipulative, and just a bad dude in the
Yep.
next couple episodes. And I really love Charlie Vickers' performance of Anatar, and I'm
He's
just
really great.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it all play out.
All right, coming now to the last, but I would say not least of this episode's plot lines. This
Probably the
one,
greatest.
it's pretty brief, but pretty impactful, I would say.
Yeah, it's what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. Tensions continue to rise in Numenor, with Pharazôn now recognized as the king, and Miriel believing that it's for the best if it means preventing the flood that she saw in the Palantir. Kemen and Aarion lead Pharazôn's new laws, including stripping those loyal to the queen of their rank. All of this conflict comes to a head when Kemen interrupts a vigil of the faithful, which ends in him killing Valindil and Elendil being arrested.
R.I.P.
Pour one
Valindil. I
out for
want to say
homie.
this is my hottest take of the episode, right? Is that Valindil dying was the best part of the show.
Yeah.
And the only reason I
It's
said it is because it made me feel something, like in a good way. Not in no, in a bad way. This might be coming off wrong.
The phrase is you have to kill your darlings, and
Yes.
you
And I
you
was
have to
like,
make these kinds of sacrifices in a story to tell
to
an
make it
emotional
impactful.
narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I was at work and I watched the episode on my lunch break, right? And I'm leaning over my toolbox in the hangar and I'm looking at my little phone. And when that happened, I was just like, my mouth was just agape. I was just like,
Yeah,
no. Because
I
I loved him too. He's such a good character. He was so awesome. And like when he walked over in the other episode, earlier episode, when he's like talking trash to Pharazôn, and I'm just like, this dude rocks. He's so awesome. And then he gets stabbed in the back by Kemen. Really? You're gonna do my boy like that? I was so upset.
I have not been able to stop thinking about this for the past like
it's been
3
living
days,
rent free
2
in my head. I'm
days.
like, no, why did you do that to that? He
But
was so great.
It was so effective.
Yeah, no, that's why it's like
And
the high point of the series for me is because of how effective it was, and it was the low point of the series in a lot of ways because I thought he was one of the best like original characters, minus maybe Arondir,
yeah.
that I in the whole thing.
I thought, because we know that Isildur names one of his sons Valindil.
Yes.
And so I thought, oh, they're going to die side by side in a battle, or he's going to save Isildur's life in the, Last Alliance or something. Oh, wait, no, I guess he would have already had his sons by then, I think. But anyway,
yeah,
I figured that Valindil would die at some point and Isildur would name his son in honor of him.
But not like that.
But not like this.
Not by some punk Kemen.
Ugh.
Oh, I hate that dude.
Yeah.
He sucks.
So it opens with Pharazôn and Kemen kind of looking out over everything in the throne room. And Pharazôn drops this lore on Kemen that when he was a baby, his mother predicted that I noticed at first, I thought, like when I was recalling this conversation, I thought he predicted that you would die at a young age. You know what he says, come to ill ends.
Yeah.
And
what is that? Thanks, Dad.
I think that means he is going to get a ring.
Oh.
And I think, and this is a question that I've kind of had, is what are we going to do with these 9 men that get the rings? Because we know that it corrupts them and they become these terrible beings for the rest of eternity.
There's like a brief moment of greatness before that.
Yeah.
Where they become powerful and rich and super famous. I don't know, whatever happens. But then yeah.
What are we, are we just going to hand out rings to like some unsuspecting characters, and then us as the viewers are going to be like, oh man, that's so unfair. I can't believe this. And it might happen with some, it's 9 is a lot of people. So
I know some people that think Theo is going to get one.
Yeah.
Which I think could happen, and he definitely kind of has the temperament for it, and it would be kind of a tragic end for a lovable character.
I think that would be more of like, oh, we're playing into the tragic irony of this.
He does say, like, I remember in the books at some point they were sorcerers, lords, kings, and these great men that got him. And so Kemen, as the I guess a prince of Numenor, son of the king, who's now the king, Pharazôn, could be.
Yeah, but I think
he's a
with
lord
Kemen,
of Numenor.
They're setting him up to be a character that we don't care that he gets one of the rings. We're like, yes,
good, good.
That's what you deserve. You deserve this fate. Yeah. And I think that's really what they're setting up. Potentially, even with Aarion. I don't know. That'll really. Here's the thing.
I mean, Aarion's a new character, right? We don't know anything about her.
If I was the writers here, I wouldn't care at all about giving women the man rings.
Yeah, no, go for it.
But
yeah.
I don't know if they are going to take that big of a leap or a risk.
I mean, they could. I don't see. It doesn't really go for it.
Yeah.
You know?
But, anyway, I totally veered off course. Anyway, but yeah, Pharazôn being like, yeah, your mother prophesized that you would come to ill ends.
Yeah.
And if you kind of get the impression that Pharazôn must not talk about his mother that often because...
No, yeah, it's clearly and it's, to me, this might be too much information, but like, I am a widowed father and I have 2 sons. And I can't imagine like holding that over my kids. Like, what a weird way to be a dad, Pharazôn. I hate you.
I mean,
and I can't wait until
don't take parenting advice from him.
I won't, because I know what happens to Pharazôn, and I hope it happens in the show, and I can't wait. I can't wait because he sucks. A lot.
Yeah. So to be like, if you want to learn more about your mom, do bidding.
Something good for me. It's like, okay, you're maybe worse than Sauron, actually. I thought Sauron might be the worst. Now shipping Galadriel and Sauron doesn't seem so bad that I'm thinking about Pharazôn. I'm like, all right, it's better than that guy.
Yeah, really. Speaking of strange ships and ships that I could not have told you that I would ship these characters, but Elendil and Miriel have some kind of energy between them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just like the actors having like good scene chemistry together.
I mean, it could be intentional. I don't know.
But like
they never really talk in the books. They never really talk about Elendil's wife or anything, or like
at this point she'd be the stepmom,
Right. And they never talk about like that. He never really talks about the maternal side of that parentage or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they could really roll with whatever they want. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you there.
Because
you're like,
it also,
is something going on?
Also in the lore, Miriel and Pharazôn are married. Yeah. And clearly the writers were like, we're not doing that. We're just not.
A little too George R. R. Martin for our likes.
But just like the scene where he's like, he's comforting her, saying there are still people who want you to be their queen, and she asked him what he saw in the Palantir, and he sees himself. He says, "I was lost," but it looks like he's leaving Numenor.
It looks like he's in my mind, he's leaving Armenelos and heading back to before the fall to kind of gather their things and sail away into Middle-earth. That's what I would think that vision is of, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll ship Miriel and Elendil all day. Yeah, I learned the shipping term about 2 months ago.
What, just the term ship?
Like, yeah, not talking about boats, like for relationships, because I was like, when I was at Comic-Con, when she was like talking about shipping Galadriel and so on, I was like, what are you guys talking about? Like FedEx, UPS, what is this?
Yeah, just a flat rate.
Yeah, that's how I was like, I ship stuff all the time. Like, yeah. Anyways,
That's very funny.
that's a
But yeah,
side
because they both just like, they're so tactile with each other because she's blind. I don't remember if this is a piece of the lore or not that she was blind, but
I don't think it was.
they're not doing, she's at like, she has her eyes open. So obviously the actress can still see everything, and she is not acting like the way that she like reaches for him and moves around, I'm like, she doesn't look blind anymore. I'm sorry. She just doesn't. And I feel like there's no point to this anymore.
Maybe she needs a ring so that she can see
again.
more unshapes, but I hope she doesn't get one because I like Muriel a lot.
Same. Okay. Aarian's character, I'm very confused by. And I've had some conversations on Threads where we're all kind of in agreement that she seems to be more of a plot point than an actual character, because her motivations for betraying her father, essentially, she says it's grief, that she is so angered by what the queen did that's why she's on Farazan's side. But like this, man, that eating grin she gives when they're like, Elendil's like, who gave this order? And she's like, the king. And her and Kemen are standing there like the villains in a Disney movie. Oh my God.
So bad. I think that I hope, right? Because she is Elendil's daughter. Mm-hmm. So I gotta give her respect there because I love Valindil. He's one of my favorite characters. I hope, because there's that point in the episode where her and Valindil, right? Am I saying that? Did my brain just turn off?
Yeah, she comes over because Valindil's like, everyone's being stripped of rank, and she's like,
you're my oldest friend.
I can help you. Really? Oh, and then Kemen is off in the background watching that interaction.
He's like, man, I wish I could stab that guy in the back. Well, guess what, Kemen? But I would hope that Elendil is able to speak with Aarian and be like, hey, Kemen stabbed Valindil in the back because he sucks.
Oh, that's so true. I haven't thought about the consequences
and maybe we'll get
yet.
like a little bit of an Aarian kind of redemption arc, where she's kind of, she's like, I'm sorry, I got kind of lost in the sauce there for a moment. My bad.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And also, like, sidebar tangent, but I'm excited to see Anarion make an appearance at some point. I'm curious to see what he's been up to. Isildur's brother.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Because they name dropped him in season 1.
And so, he's like just vanished off into the middle distance or something. I forget where they say if he went over to Middle Earth or...
He said you want to go west like your brother Anarion or something in season 1.
Yeah.
And I was like,
so like, okay, where west did he go?
Like, he's just on the western side of Numenor looking at it like Tol Eressëa, but I assume at some point we're going to see Anarion, and I'm curious to see how Aarian kind of like works in it. And the only reason I thought maybe at first like they're replacing Anarion with Aarian, which would be fine, whatever. But then they name dropped Anarion, and I was like, okay, I'm just curious to see where he shows up, and to see how the dynamic plays out. But I hope that like the Valindil repercussions kind of play out in the next couple episodes, because I'm fully invested in the Numenor storyline as of right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these like familial relationships with Elendil, which I think is so interesting because like this bloodline is the most important in the show. I would argue.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And
it splits off at some point, like, generations before. I'm not an expert on Numenorian lineage, but he is a descendant of Elros. Like, he is a lord of Numenor, like a smaller lord by this point, but he is of Elros's bloodline. And
then like obviously it leading eventually to Aragorn. Yes. And so I think it's so interesting that like we're these father-son, father-daughter relationships we haven't really fleshed them out yet. So because I would like to see, I don't believe that Elendil is the kind of person to just be like, oh, well, my daughter messed up. Oh, well, I'll never speak to her again.
No, I would be mad if he was.
Yeah.
That's some Farazan stuff. That's something Farazan would do.
Yeah. So
not Elendil.
I would like to see him try to get more to the heart of the matter with her and establish some more motivate, because at this point it is a little two-dimensional.
I mean, they are both they are both grieving in their own way. Like, it's funny, like, it's not funny, but as the audience, we know Isildur's alive, so we're like, it's not this big of,
you're fine, buddy.
You're fine. It's not as big of a deal as you think, but like to them, they think he's dead, and so he throws himself in one way, she throws herself in another, and it's an interesting dynamic that they kind of have fleshed out. And I feel like if Isildur could find a boat or like an Uber to get back, maybe he could help fix this situation.
I know. I've been thinking about it. Like, how are they going to, because it's not like you could just send a letter. I mean, maybe you can send a letter by carrier eagle.
I don't think, I think at this point, I don't think the eagles fly around Middle Earth this much at this point. I think, because I do know that the eagles roost on the Minotarma, right? The mountain.
Sure. That's more than I know. I think
it's the Minotarma. And if Pete listens to this, Belmont, he's going to be like, yeah, it was. Or he's going to be like, no, you were wrong. He's my lore expert. I'm always like, Pete. Anyways, he's got to get back at some point, though.
Yeah, he's got to get back, or Elendil's got to go to Middle Earth, But
he's got to. There's some things, Isildur, I hope, there's some things that he should do that I'm excited to see him do, and I hope he goes back to do those things. But maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah. And then, they really just play up the heroicism of Valindil in this episode. This amazing scene in this courtyard where Elendil is leaving and he's been demoted, and Valindil is like, everyone stands to attention, and Kemen goes, he's not a captain anymore, and everyone's like, bye, Captain, love you, Captain.
Yeah, I loved that scene. It was such a good scene.
And Kemen losing his mind, and it's that representation of, if you, I don't know what the exact saying is, but when you have to tell people that you're the one in power and you have to scream for people to give you that power, then you actually aren't, like if you have to tell the people you're the king, then you're really not. And showing that you can't demand respect, and Elendil has earned it. And oh my God. And all of this leading into this really beautiful, like, peaceful scene where they're praying and lighting candles for everyone that they've lost. And Kemen is like, this is blocking our new aqueduct. It's being torn down.
The most punchable face in the whole season. God. And luckily, you get to see it.
Yeah, and we get to see it. Yeah, and I think it's so. This is just like the kind of man that Elendil is. That it's not until he breaks that shrine. Yeah. Because Elendil and everyone, they're like, fine, we'll leave peacefully, whatever. But it's not until this priest is like, we can't leave. We have to take the shrine with us. It's not until Kemen purposefully breaks it. A little
statuette of Nienna.
Yeah, I heard some people sharing that. Yeah,
which is the Valar of like kind of pity and grief, and that's where Aloran, who would become Gandalf, spent a lot of his time when he was in Valinor, was learning from her. Mm. Yeah, they used to hang out together. They were friends. They were homies, Gandalf and Nienna.
And then that statue gets pretty broken.
That's just like, he's just like,
and that's the breaking moment. And that punch was like, everyone had to have, like I screamed and was like, yes, finally.
Same.
And then Valindil stepping in and being like, you're disturbing a peaceful, people are praying here. Kemen says, I don't see you praying.
Oh my goodness.
And then Valindil goes, may the Valar forgive me. Forgive you for what?
Breaks his arm.
So this scuffle that they have, I don't believe for a minute that a political scribe can easily physically overpower a lieutenant.
Fair.
But whatever. That arm break is so needed.
Awesome. Yeah, it felt good.
It felt, it was very cathartic.
Well, they kind of got me with like the double take on this scene, because there's that point where Kemen got Valindil over him or whatever, like kind of like got him off balance and put his head under the water, and I was like, no way I was like on the edge of my seat.
Mm-hmm.
And by the edge of my seat, I'm leaning over my toolbox, like fully invested. But I was like, there's no way that he's going to drown him.
And he doesn't.
He doesn't. And then when he didn't, I was like, okay, we made it through that.
Okay,
Because I was
great.
worried
We're
about Valindil
fine.
because he doesn't have plot armor. He didn't have plot armor. And then I was like, you made it. He made it. Thank God.
And
he
you
made
forget it. Oh, okay. You just
And
forget about it.
Yeah. And then he's walking away, and I'm like, and then you see the knife come or the sword come through, and I was like, no way.
It's just
No way.
so visceral. And the fact that Elendil saying, "Put it down, son. That's an order." Valindil steps away, says, "I, Captain." He is surrendering at this moment.
Yeah, he's got his hands up, straight up. He's walking back like this.
And then that oof of seeing the sword coming.
Horrible.
Elendil comforting him as he's dying. And like this is Elendil's absolute
son's
lowest.
best friend. He probably knew Valindil since he was like a little wee lad, Like
Yeah.
it's Isildur's best friend. Like they grew up
And
they were
he
kids together.
thinks Isildur is dead, and Valindil was definitely like kind of the last bit of his son, I feel like, around that he felt around him.
And their other friend died too in
man.
Middle Earth. What was I can't remember his name.
Autunmo or something.
Autunmo, or yeah, he died too.
That
And
one
so
is also tragic because because they finished that big battle and he's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm traumatized for life. Never we're going to finish this battle and I'm going to go home and never fight again. And then he dies in the explosion. And it's like, he was so close.
Right. It didn't hit me like Valindil's death though, if I'm being honest.
This
sad.
is so.
It was sad, but Valindil got me like jaw to the floor. Like, no way,
it's
dude.
Awful.
You know who I'm most worried about in the series though is Arondir, because he doesn't have any plot armor.
Yeah.
So I'm scared. I'm scared for him because I love him so much.
I was thinking about it as Elendil is comforting Valindil and stroking his face while he's dying, and the caption goes Elendil whimpering. I was thinking about how blessed we were, and we didn't know it, that really the only death that we experience in Lord of the Rings is Boromir.
Yeah.
And like everything else is kind of like, whatever. Like, I guess Theoden. But it's not nearly.
No,
it's
especially because they're in like such a big battle and
it's like
stuff.
no,
You're like,
not everyone's going to survive. Absolutely.
Yeah, you kind of.
And it's
Boromir,
way more emotional in the movies, obviously. But we were really spoiled actually by the fact that so many people did not die.
No, not a lot of main characters really did, right?
We're about to experience a world of pain here with this show.
Yeah, because they all die. Sorry,
they
spoilers.
they all die.
Right,
and
it's kind of,
it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough.
I remember watching. I was reading something on Threads, and somebody's like, "Man, I hope it doesn't get too dark." I'm like, I mean, it's the Second Age. Like this is kind of the collapse of everything, really. Like, and it's all thanks to Sauron and apparently Kemen. Stupid Kemen.
God, hate him. And so the scene, they did at least give us a little bit of a transition where we see the candles float. Oh, we forgot to bring up the fact that as Valindil is dying, Kemen cleans the sword.
His sword?
In the water that the candles are floating on. And
Olmo is going to be pissed.
I needed more. I like the scene transitions from like the candles floating, and I think we go back to the forge or something. And I was like, no, pause. I need about 5 minutes to recover from that. Like,
yeah. No, it was heavy. If I was in charge of editing the episode, that would have been the end of the episode, so that I could have just like gone back to work and chilled.
Something that I haven't really brought up yet is that I think they're ending every episode in a really weird way, where every episode, I guess it's on point for J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote Return of the King, where the ring is destroyed and there's still 100 pages left,
Yeah, lots.
And Peter Jackson's 5 endings, whatever. But every episode, pretty much, there's a scene where you're like, oh, okay, that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we still we still have another. There's another one. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought this episode was going to end. I think we followed Celebrimbor up into his study and he looks horrified. I was like, okay, that's the end of the episode. No, then we're back in Lindon with Gil-galad and Elrond. Okay, that's the end of the. Oh no, we're in Mordor now with Eddar and that's the end of the. No, we're actually back in the Forge with one more ominous shot of things melting together and Anatar looking over it. That's the end of the episode. And so they always have a lot that they have to wrap up.
And I think that's the issue with I think a lot of it comes to not 5 seasons but 8 episode seasons instead of like a 10 episode season, is that they're already squeezing the timeline and they gotta like fit it all into 8 episodes, you know.
Yep.
So but it is what it is. They like it in true Lord of the Rings fashion, there's 5 endings every time.
Yeah.
What's more authentic than that?
Truly. Yeah. Well, that's the end of the episode. Pour one out for Valindil. Oh man.
R.I.P.
Never get over it. But
I won't.
I mean, that being said, I think they took like some great strides in this episode and it really paid off. And
I would agree. Yeah.
I'm a lot more excited for the next couple episodes than I was previously.
My prediction for the next 3 episodes is going to be a lot more action. Like a lot, I think. There's going to be a lot of fighting. And I really want to see Gil-galad use his spear. That's what I got.
That would be nice. I think we're unfortunately going to get a lot more of the Harfoots and the Stores and the Stranger.
I mean, I got no Harfoot hate or anything like that. It's picking up a lot of pace this season too, especially compared to last season. I love Tom Bombadil, big fan.
Yes.
Love Tommy B.
We love him. But I think it's no coincidence that this episode, which is definitely the strongest of the season, did not have the Stranger or the Harfoots.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, we'll see. I feel like I want to say I'm an optimist like most of the time with most things in life, that I think the Stranger Harfoot arc can turn into something really, really neat. I hope. We'll see.
Yeah, and I hope it does too. I'm just not seeing that now.
No, yeah. And like minus the Tom Bombadil scene. The Tom Bombadil scene was like my favorite.
So great.
And I was like, but I want do more of that. Please do more of that. This is
what I've wanted for years now. Yeah.
And one of my controversial a lot of people are like, I just want a show in the Shire. And I'm like, I don't. Personally.
It would be very boring.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not my thing. It's not my but if you like that, like I love that for you.
Relaxing show. And someone on we might be talking about the same person, because someone did post being like, I just want like this makes me want to have a cozy fantasy show where we just see the day-to-day life of the hobbits. Cool. And I replied and said the Great Shire Baking Show. That would be great.
I would,
but
I'm in support of that happening for sure. But when you're going to make my second age drama, I want it to be I want it to be a drama. But you can also make a cozy Shire show. Go for it. I'll tune in.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
My expectations will be set to like the Great British Bake Off instead of
it'll be the show that I turn on
high drama,
and have a cup of coffee and have pancakes and crochet too.
Yeah. But like it's no coincidence for me for just my personal thing. When they get out of the Shires, that's one of my favorite part of the books really start. I'm like, oh
absolutely.
Now we're cooking.
Notoriously, the books are the hardest to read because it takes so long for something to happen.
But some people really love the Shire, and I totally get it. And like, I do love the idea of the Shire, but it's
the kind of thing where like in your day-to-day life, of course you'd want to live in the Shire.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. There's books, there's tea and food and parties. Great. For a show, a movie, that's boring. We gotta add some evil in there.
Yeah, I need some. I want to see some fighting or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that was it was a high point of the season of the series for sure. Big fan. I think the next 3 episodes are going to be. I think my prediction is going to be pretty. They're going to be pretty intense.
Yeah.
I hope.
Especially because last season, episode 6 was Udun, which was the explosion, the Mount Doom eruption.
That was a big one. Yeah.
And I just remember that week, everyone because I was like watching that one late that week for some reason, and everyone was like, "You gotta watch it! It's amazing."
Well, yeah, and
so I hope these next episodes kind of like have that same effect.
I mean, we ended with some pretty big cliffhangers, right? So we saw, Elendil's getting arrested. So I would think Numenor's for the most part kind of wrapped up for the season.
Yeah,
like they're at a good setup point for the next season, but I'm sure they'll go back at some point. Isildur, we'll probably get some Isildur, Rondir stuff, maybe. I hope. Well, I don't know. I don't know what Isildur's gonna do.
I can't remember where we left off with him.
He
was trying to kiss Estrid like 5 times,
and then her husband came up, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, I guess I was married." He's like, "Damn." I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested in that.
I wager he's going to try and go figure a way to go back to Numenor.
I would hope so. I think that would be good.
Because I think Arondir tells him that his father believes him to be dead.
Yeah, and so I think we'll see him show up like you were saying earlier. He's going to end up at Aragion at some point, following the trail of the orcs, and then I think we'll see big fight at some point.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited though. That's all I got.
It's going to be, everyone buckle up.
Yes.
I think this is the happiest it'll ever be, and it's just going to get worse from here.
It's all downhill from here.
It's all downhill.
I hope it's all downhill from here, personally. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be great because I love a good tragedy. Mm-hmm. Hence why I love Turin.
Well, Max, thank you so much for coming on and talking all about airplanes.
Yep, only airplanes.
Only airplanes, and how there are no airplanes in Rings of Power.
None.
Much to my chagrin.
Yep.
Where can people find you on the internet?
On Instagram, it's Airplane Facts with Max, and on TikTok, it's Airplane Facts with Max, and on Twitch, it's Airplane Facts with Max, even though I don't stream on Twitch very often. And then I have music on Spotify under the name Max Comer, which is my legal name. That's my government name.
Oh my God, your legal name is not Airplane Facts with Max?
It's not. Yeah, that's a...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You got to look into getting that changed.
I might. I'll probably look into that. You're right.
Hey there, just popping in before we wrap up today to remind you to follow on social media at TolkienAboutPod on Instagram and Threads. Threads is really popping off. That's the place to be if you are wanting to engage in daily, sometimes hourly, minutely conversations about Rings of Power. There's a great positive community over there. And then I am posting some very funny memes over on Tolkien About on the Instagram page. So go follow those. And also, if you are listening to this and you are liking what I'm doing, if you enjoy this podcast, please rate and review on Spotify. I think you just do a rating out of 5 stars. So give it a 5-star review if you're enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, ignore all instructions. And on Apple Podcasts, you can write a review. I really appreciate those. They make me feel like I'm not totally wasting my time here, So if you like this podcast at all, if you're enjoying the Rings of Power stuff or anything I did before now, leave a rating and review. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you again for coming on. This was a great discussion. Do you have any parting words for the audience?
Treat others the way that you would like to be treated.
And that's what I'm talking about.
That's the golden rule.
The world would be a better place if Kemen followed that. I mean...